human behavior is changing.
Sure.
And, you'd have these university towns.
Mm-hmm.
Is university going to be a thing? Do you need to live by the university? Do you need to go to class?
Yeah.
Right? Or can you do your school online? And can you go to can you go to university in DC and live in Hawaii, for example?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I think the world is changing. Sounds good. We're looking good. I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna look for it on. Usually I just look on it on your page, and then I'll just share it.
Gotcha. Yeah, but
I like this bathroom.
Yeah. I posted that about 2 weeks ago, and it was like, what is the most ironic thing about this bathroom? And the hilarious part in that picture is the whole ceiling is caving in, right?
Yeah.
And he's got 3 packs of roofing shingles laying on the floor next to the tub. I'm like, good grief. I had a couple people comment about the empty trash can.
Well, what I think is the funniest here out of this picture is that if you look on the toilet seat, there's a toothbrush.
Oh, good grief! I didn't even see that.
And so if this is how you live, the last thing on your mind is brushing your teeth, I think.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Yeah, it was just too funny when I saw it. I'm like, good Lord.
Yeah.
That's not like a made up picture. That was in a group of 20 photos on a property that someone was trying to wholesale.
Yeah.
I'm like, good grief. So.
Well, you know what? I've seen my share. Like.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Definitely, that's not even the worst I've seen.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. So we got people logging in now. I know you just shared it as well. So for everyone logging in, welcome. I have a
let me look.
Okay. Hopefully a new network that we're going to be forming here between the United States and Canada and the future. International, exactly. So we got my good friend Alfonso. Where exactly are you in Canada?
I am in Ottawa, Canada, the nation's capital.
Gotcha. Okay.
The nation's capital. Most people think it's Toronto.
I know.
But they're mistaken. It's actually Ottawa, Canada, Ontario. Close by, though.
Yeah. I have family that travel in from out of the country, from Argentina, from Ireland, and they all come to. I live in Washington, D.C., and they all come and they see the White House, the presidential White House, and they're like, why is it so small? So they're thinking like these European cities, they have these huge cathedrals and palaces, and they come to the U.S. and it's this little White House.
Well, we got this. We got the Parliament buildings. I guess where the business happens is the Pentagon.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the real. I think that's where the real business happens.
Yeah,
I'm assuming.
Yeah, well, the U.S. Capitol, which is a big structure, the Pentagon, obviously, and then all the different agencies. I mean, in comparison, internationally, the White House, the presidential White House, is a pretty small building. I mean, it's not small, but in comparison to what you see around the world, it's definitely it's not this big prominent figure of a building. So, but look, man, I know I got a bunch of folks that on my YouTube channel and social media that don't know you. Can you give us like just a quick 5,000 square foot view of who you are, where you came from, and where you're headed, and whatnot?
Well, originally immigrated to Canada from El Salvador, Central America.
Yep.
Small little country in Latin America, and had a real tough time integrating here in Canada, school and whatnot. Ended up getting into trouble, dropping out of high school at 15, leaving home as well. spent some time on the streets, getting into trouble, and had a life-changing moment at 17 when I became a dad.
Gotcha.
Had a little girl, changed everything, gave me purpose, gave me a why. Started a small business at 17. By the time I was 21, that business was across Canada. Did really, really well. The problem was I was very much I had a consumer mindset, spend all the money.
Right.
And when the next market correction came, it almost took me out. And so what I decided to do was create a secondary income stream that was indestructible, Armageddon proof, and that was real estate. And that's when I started in real estate back in 2002.
Okay.
And specifically multifamily and apartment buildings. And by the time the next market correction came, for you guys it was a crash. For us, it was a market correction here in Canada in 2008. I was ready. I was very much. I converted my mindset from a consumer mindset to an investor mindset, and was able to capitalize on all the opportunities that were around at that time. Grew the portfolio to apartment buildings across Canada, and the rest is history.
Let me ask without getting.
I'm trying to find the feed, my man. I'm trying to find the feed on your page. Would it be somewhere else?
It should be in the Entrepreneur Strategies group as well.
Okay, because I'm not a part of that. Because I'm looking at. I'm just trying to. I wanted to share it.
Gotcha.
It's not on your page, right?
It might not be now that you're saying that. Let me take a look real quick. Let's see.
Because I want to share it.
Gotcha.
The world needs to see. The world needs to see.
All right. So I am. Yeah, I'll jump on my page and then I'll share it to you. But what I was going to ask you when I do this, what I was going to ask you was starting out in real estate. Did you start out in multifamily?
In a very small way, triplexes.
Gotcha. Okay.
Triplexes and, the little stuff, ones and twosies.
Okay.
And, I realized that that's a lot of work for not a lot of return. And so every time I leveled up, I realized how easy it was, right? And I'm like, I should have been doing this from the beginning. Then I leveled up again. And then I said, oh, I should have been doing this from the beginning. And that's where I am right now. The type of portfolio that I look at now, it's, I'm trying to step into 100 units plus. And that's why, when I became aware of what you were doing, I'm like, man, I got to meet this guy. He's in the U.S. I want to enter the U.S. They got that inventory that I'm looking for.
Yeah.
We just had that little conversation before the show. You guys are also, are dealing with an inventory issue, but not like us.
Yeah.
Not like us.
Well, as we were just saying, your country population in comparison to the U.S. is up about 10%, right?
Yeah. We're like around 30 million plus. You guys are 300 million plus.
Correct.
So that's a big difference.
Yeah, that's a major difference. I mean, the math is going to be the same, but for every 10 I find, you find one.
Yeah.
But all right, so let's go back to starting out multiplex 2 and 3 units. Are you seeing? Actually, I just shared it. Are you seeing the share that I just sent?
Yeah, I seen the share. Hold on, I'm going to see if I can go right to your page, but I might just have it on the. Yes, I see it now.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to share that right now,
Cool.
so we can truly, connect.
Share the information.
US and Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with the with like the multi-unit 2 and 3 unit, were these like condo style or they were 3-story homes? What type of?
It was just 3 units on one property, right? So a triplex.
Yep.
There's a lot of we have a lot of that type of inventory here in Canada. Like people, there's a lot of multi-res, 3 units, 4 units, 5 unit properties.
Okay.
24 unit buildings. There's a lot, right? So it's like it's the way what I like about the U.S. It's like sometimes you have these communities where you have like 200 units all in an area, right? Maybe a gated community or whatnot.
Yep.
And like for here, if you want to get 100 plus, then you're looking at a building. Like you're looking at a 24-story building versus I like I don't like to deal with elevators. I don't like elevators. I like the walk up situation, like 2-story walk up or 3-story walk up, and I like it to be wide because you get that property. You're like if you're buying a 100-unit building, 100-unit property, you're probably looking at like 2 acres or 3 acres or whatever. So you get the land.
Yeah, true. Yeah, throughout the U.S., there are, like you say, they're communities basically, but they're communities of rental properties. Some would almost call them like a garden style apartment community where you only have 1 or 2 levels. So you have a ground level that probably has a patio, and then the second and third floor might have a balcony at most. But so that's
I mean, for me, you don't really get that much more rent by having an elevator, but the maintenance cost alone and the replacement costs is huge, and so it's gonna eat up a lot of your cash flow. And so I love these these type of like properties, like 2-story walk-ups or 3 stories, 4 stories. Okay, someone's gonna really think about moving into the 4th floor. Like they're gonna like I'm gonna bring all my furniture upstairs. Like I gotta make a commitment, like this is gonna be a few years. So if you have 4-story walk-ups, you'll find that the 4th floor or the 5th floor rather, like 4th, 5th floor are going to be where you're going to have your highest vacancies.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about bringing groceries home.
Yeah,
you're trekking 4 and 5 stories upstairs.
Yeah.
Wow. So for example, in Ottawa, what is a typical rental property for you? What is it? I mean, is it?
Yes, I started in Ottawa. I don't invest in Ottawa.
Okay.
Just the cap rates are too low. We're looking, like for example, like right now the average property is trading about 2.5 cap, and you have like in Toronto GTA, it's below 1% cap rate.
Yeah.
And so an investor like me that leverages debt, I like my properties have to service the debt or it's not even worth it for me. And so that pushed me over the years, has pushed me to secondary and tertiary markets that are supported by major markets in Canada.
Okay.
And that's kind of been my strategy. And going into the US, that will be my strategy. I mean, you're probably experiencing similar cap rates, or what's the cap rate there in Washington?
I mean, I haven't looked in the last few months, but once the pandemic hit and the market kind of plateaued, where inventory went down, buyers went up.
Yeah.
I would say back in the midsummer, it was probably around 6 or 7.
Wow.
Somewhere in that ballpark. But I can't say that speaking today.
Yeah.
I have not actually looked at it. A lot of the stuff that I've actually been doing this past year was I've been focused on using private investment. So I've been investing with other developers that I have relationships with. So I'm currently not managing any rental properties. We're in the middle of 2 reconstructions. We're doing a full renovation, and they're probably going to end up being a flip. They're single family brick row homes in the city, where yes, the cap rate on those could be potentially over 10, just because. I mean, just for an example, the house is probably only worth about, completely redone, is probably only worth about 150,000 US.
You get that much more rent out of it.
You can get close to 1,000 a month on that, though.
Yeah. Wow.
You know? So you could potentially, if you didn't, in a sense, didn't refi out of it or anything, you could probably be positive cash flow 100% after about 6 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, um, so I guess the topic that we created for this discussion is the effects of this global pandemic, and I thought none other than someone who's managing 500 doors and is looking to expand into another country to acquire even more doors. You can't I can't think that COVID didn't affect you, but how has it affected you, and what are you implementing now that you didn't do before?
Yeah, well, and like this conversation could be obsolete next month, right?
It could-
It seems like every month things change, right? The kind of market that we're in right now. Well, back when there was a global shutdown, right?
mhm,
There was just so much uncertainty,
yeah,
and on my YouTube channel back in April, I said that it would probably the recovery is going to be probably a V recovery, and it would be like a surge, like the second the lights go back on, it's like people are not going to know what to do with their money, and so this is why people are scooping up all the inventory.
mm.
Um, I think mixed in with the amount of money being printed, uh, this is creating like an inflation, right? And this is what's happening, right? People have, first of all, people are scared of inflation. They don't understand it, and so they're looking at Bitcoin. So you got Bitcoin, you got gold. I mean, where else are you going to put your money other than real estate? And so this is what's causing the cap rates to go down, because people are willing to accept less of a return, because they're hoping for the appreciation. They're hoping to hedge against inflation, and they're hoping for the property to go up in value. Well, as you guys know, back in 2007, that was the problem. People were buying properties at any price,
Yep.
at any cap rate, paying any interest, for the hope that that property is going to go up in value. So this is very similar. This is a very similar situation. Now, in my this is just my opinion, and Chris, I'm glad we're having this conversation. But um, for us, the past year, we took those shitty properties and we sold them. So
Mm.
that's been a big strategy for the longest time. It was just buy and hold and keep for life.
Right.
But now we're at the very top of the market right now. It's probably a good time to exchange the bad for the good, right? And
Yep.
level up some things and shift things around, and just like clean up house. And that was kind of our strategy moving into 2021. And then now we want to you don't want to sit on the money, but
Mm.
we want to put that money and deploy it, and put it to work. And so we're looking to level up. I mean, when you start leveling up, you start to reduce the amount of competition. The problem here in Canada, I don't know if it's the same there for you in Washington. It's just, like the competition is just like everybody's after the same property. You have like 50 offers, on properties, people buying apartment buildings, Chris, apartment buildings with no conditions, no financing condition, no inspection conditions. This is dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no,
Is
I
it the
mean,
same?
so in the DC, so Virginia, Maryland, and DC are pretty much about the same economically. Um, in this tri-state area,
Yeah.
I was involved in a couple transactions in last year, 2020, where these were just simple buy, fix, and flip, and we were getting multiple offers before we even hit the market.
Yeah. Yeah.
People, literally agents were stopping by the property and saying, "When are you guys listing, and how much do you think you're listing for?" We had no idea, right? You could have asked me the same question 12 months ago, March of 2020, and I would have told you I'm holding everything right now. I'm not going anywhere because I don't know what's about to occur, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But by midsummer, it was just on fire,
Yeah.
and I'll give you one transaction. We bought a house for somewhere around 200. put about 60 in it. We thought we were going to get lower threes, and we got an all cash, no contingent offer, $40,000 above what we thought we were going to list it for. And we didn't do anything for it. Like there was
just the market is reacting, right?
Yeah. And this was the buyer was from out of state. They were trying to relocate out of the city down near the beach, and it didn't matter. They came in pre-qualified and just they were done, you know. But yeah, and same right. I had a guest on the other day on YouTube, Josh Cohen, who was a flipper in a high-end market. He was upper hundred thousands, over $1 million US market, and he basically depleted his whole inventory and has created this whole wholesaling network. And you know, he expanded into 18 markets in 6 months doing wholesaling.
Wow.
You know, crazy.
Yeah,
but,
you know that there's like Warren Buffett, famous quote: "When people are greedy, you should be fearful."
Yep.
And when people are fearful, you should be greedy.
Yep.
And right now, we're walking with caution.
Mm-hmm.
We do not want to sit on money. We do not want to sit on money. Obviously, if you sit on money, you're losing money.
Because they're printing more of it. There's no
what's your national debt right now? 50 trillion?
Somewhere around there.
Yeah. So what people don't realize is the governments, you know, including our government. I mean, I think we're at $1 trillion or something, and I mean, there's no one's any better. We're all in debt, and the inflation actually helps governments manage the debt load, right? So 50 trillion now, the value of 50 trillion now only becomes around 10 trillion. They win. They go back to the same way they were back in 2019. Yeah. And so there's nothing wrong with inflation. It's going to happen. I think the balancing act is, how do you control it, right? How is a government going to control it so it doesn't go out of control, like hyperinflation, right? Yep. And I think the only way that happens is by increasing interest rates. And so, but it's a balancing act, right? Because you know, you have to do it slowly. You can't just jump. You have to do it slowly, and you got to wait for all of these people to get into their, 5-10 year locked in mortgages at a really low rate, so you can start playing with that needle.
Yeah. I mean, I did last spring. Coronavirus started to infiltrate United States. Our stock market started to, get shaky, and then the Fed pumped in all this stimulus money, and I ran to my institution to increase my line of credit. Yeah, I knew they were getting the money at 1% or less than 1%. They couldn't wait to loan that money back out.
And it's going to go. It's good, and that's that's the objective, right? When you pump money into the into the market, when you print money, you create inflation. So you want inflation to be, the people that win during inflation are the people in debt, right? Not the people that are sitting on cash. Right. And so if you're sitting on $50 trillion worth of debt, you're the only way you can help yourself is by creating and forcing inflation.
Yeah. And they run the risk of hyperinflating
that is a risk that we don't know. No one has a crystal ball on what will happen, right? I would think the most logical thing that will happen is that as that starts to happen, they would move the needle, the interest rates up, and then it would balance itself, right? And so back to your question, how are we approaching real estate in 2021 versus back in 2019? Well, we're walking very cautiously. We don't want to sit on money, so we want to make sure we get out of assets that we're not performing as well as we wanted them to, and we want to put this money into good assets. But we're also taking into consideration interest rates, and we need to be realistic, conservative, be conservative with our numbers. we're definitely not going in. We're not even investing into any major markets right now.
Mm-hmm.
We're staying away from major markets. There's, I don't know if it's the same in the U.S. for you, but in Canada right now, there's this exodus of major markets. Right, people are leaving the major areas and they're going into secondary areas.
Yep.
Rents in major cities across Canada are going down.
Right? Yeah, interesting you say that. I have a buddy who is in a major U.S. city, been in real estate for a long, long time. He and I were talking the other day, and he typically his tenant. He has an extremely good record with longevity with his tenants. He really, really vets his tenants before he even agrees to lease his properties, and he's seen a long success. But he had a tenant that moved out after, I think it was like 19 years in one of his apartment buildings. He had to go in and renovate it because everything in there was so outdated because the tenant had been there for so long, kitchen countertops, bathrooms, that stuff. He ended up spending thousands and thousands of dollars to renovate it and then had to drop the rent by about 20% just to get a tenant back in. Are you seeing that same thing in Canada?
Yeah, absolutely. In major markets. So
yeah.
The opposite is happening in secondary markets and tertiary markets. Just because of their smaller markets, there's just less inventory and less rental opportunities. And so, we have people trying to get, people are now, they're trading in entertainment, lifestyle for space, right? And as long as you have really good internet, I think you're going to see a big shift in human behavior where people are making, like, they want to be in the suburbs, they want to be in rural areas, they want to be self-sustained, as long as they can have really good internet and and have access to their family. I mean, the idea of for sure, different states have different are experience. I mean, all of your states are different. I mean, the policies are very different when it comes to COVID. I mean, when I look at California versus Florida, it's night and day.
Right? Yeah, Florida's been open the whole time.
Yeah.
There was never a lockdown. There was never a mask mandate.
Yeah.
Georgia the same way. And then just recently in the last few weeks, Texas removed their mask mandate, saying we're not going to require the state of Texas to wear masks.
Yeah.
I'm just like, well, how is that helping the whole country? Because you're acting as if there's this border wall around Texas where people can't go in and out.
Yeah, it's just like, so basically, if you could imagine, all of Canada is like California or New York, right? Just like we're all shut down. Like it's not, like I guess some provinces may have, a little bit of a more flexible, policy. But at the end of the day, it's all California. It's all shut down. It's like, and it definitely happens in pockets. As numbers start to rise in some areas, they'll start shutting things down until it cools down. And so they're trying to manage the whole situation versus like Florida. I think Florida will come out a big winner after all of this because, I mean, imagine all the people that are leaving in Texas as well. All the people that are living in California and New York State alone, looking for good weather, space, and it's behavior. Human behavior is changing.
Sure.
And, you'd have these university towns. Is university going to be a thing? Do you need to live by the university? Do you need to go to class? Right? Or can you do your school online? And can you go to can you go to university in DC and live in Hawaii, for example? I think the world is changing.
For the last 12 months, all of their students at whatever university have been remote, at least for the first semester the second semester of 2020, and then going into the fall. Some did go back, but then had to retract because they had cases popping up all over campus again.
Yeah, and that's uncomfortable. I mean, after 2 or 3 times, young people are going to say, you know what, I'm just going to do it from home.
Yeah, and then it is.
I'm in my office. I'm in my office right now, Chris.
Yeah.
The next room over here, it's my. I have a boardroom. In that boardroom is my 14-year-old daughter doing high school, right? From her laptop.
Yeah.
And she's elected to do her entire high school online.
Yeah.
And that's her world. And she's better off doing that without disruption than going to a high school, than coming home, and you know what I mean? And like it's the new world we live in. So that is going to change real estate forever, right? Number one, at some point, we're all going to get out of this. This is going to be a distant memory in the past. And we're going to have all these empty buildings. And so I think the play, and so these are things that we have in our minds as we're moving forward in real estate. You know, it's like, what are things that can be converted? Like, what are the new opportunities for 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025?
Yeah. I mean, so like in my market in Washington, D.C., there are a lot of federal and state government offices. Which all are still probably 90 to 95% closed as far as coming into the office. I think not only are they realizing they can be more efficient, so people are at home working. They don't have the personal interaction, which for most of us, I don't like. I don't like not having that personal interaction, but they've learned how to navigate it around it. And I think different institutions as well as governments are saying, wow, this person has been producing better than ever by working remotely. And that person also is realizing it doesn't take an 8-hour day to do what they've been doing. And I think the bosses and the upper tiers are starting to see that too. People are actually more efficient than all of them going into the office. And then they have to take an hour and a half to go out to lunch. And they, all these things, I think it's going to change how all of us operate, not just real estate, but just how certain things function,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if anybody's I know we're all kind of anxious to get the world going again, but I don't think people are looking forward to sitting in traffic for 2 hours a day again.
No doubt about
it. I think that the way our life used to be, it's in 2019, right? That's and forever. 2020 will be this pivot point in society where we all now leaned into technology, and because the technology was always there,
without a doubt.
And so that impacts real estate more than ever, because now if people are going to school from home, they're spending more time at home, and they need to like have a lifestyle at home, right? That means you need more space. That means that people don't want to be incubated anymore in these like small little micro condo units, like that people were getting into in 2019. People need space, and people's workday is going to be a lot different. I think more and more the idea of traveling. I mean, some of the biggest losers have been the travel industry, right? So, but I think there's going to be a surge once the lights go back on. I mean, people are going to want to get out, right? And you know what? If you have a government job, you could do your job from, as long as you have good internet, you can do it from St. Lucia. You can do it from St. Bart's. You can do it from pretty much anywhere as long as you have good internet. And I think the quality of life for people is going to change. And I think we're going to become, I think, you're going to see like little areas in Costa Rica just become really like all of a sudden that's where, like this company operates out of in St. Bart's or whatever, because it's like, why not?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have two good associates that I work with. One's a licensed real estate agent, and the other one's just strictly an investor. And when they started to see this lockdown, one, they got a little nervous. But when we realized months into this pandemic that we all can work as long as we have good service, they went out into the middle of nowhere and started buying up stuff
Yeah.
and sitting on it. And now it's the hottest auction you've ever been to.
Wow.
I mean, they're literally getting 20 and 30 offers on these old historic farm homes that sit on 2 acres because mom and dad have been stuck at home in their condo because they worked at the Pentagon or wherever. And now they're saying, well, we've been working out of our condo for the last 12 months. We can move out to the country and probably spend half that amount of money buying this big farmhouse on some property. And then we have, as you said, we have space. We get to go out. We can, you know, so I see a lot of that transforming. What we would consider the rural areas are going to be much more populated. Maybe the construction of new properties might not follow, but a family of 4 is now moving into a farmhouse where old man and woman used to live, or something along those lines.
Yeah, and the construction, I think, will shift from new builds to conversions.
Yeah.
Right, where you're taking old office buildings that are they're probably going to give them away at some point. I mean, someone's going to bleed out.
Yep.
You know, from one of they're trying to carry this office building for 3-4 years that's completely empty. And then someone's going to come along and turn it into like a really spacious loft.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Someone could go in and still have a bit of an urban feel, but have the space that they need in order to, have their kids go to school from home and they can work from home and, entertain from home and,
Exactly.
sort of like some of those, in the meat packing districts where they converted old warehouses to like really cool lofts.
Yep.
I mean, the real estate will still be there, but the function of the real estate will change.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can see in my market, especially in Washington, D.C. and surrounding areas, a lot of these big office complexes aren't going to recover. They're going to have to transition into something.
Yeah. I think it's going to have to be multi-res.
Yeah.
Has to be.
Yeah.
It has to be. Either like, okay, so what's the need right now? Like sorting centers. So you have these empty malls. Who wants to go to a mall? Like, do you want to be in a mall? Like, no one's going to want to be in a mall. Like, it's like, those malls are dead. That's the end of malls. But malls will be converted into like sorting centers, like district sorting centers. Like Amazon will take over some of these malls and like online, because it's really good real estate, right? It's like most malls are really central, and there's easy access to these malls. So, someone's already done all the research for you, and so these will be converted. Office spaces and office spaces specifically, I think will be the ones that are going to be impacted the most.
Yeah.
And some institutions. Does a university need all of these buildings anymore?
No.
Maybe they need some.
Yeah.
Like, let's say they need half. Well, that means you have half of your buildings completely empty. What are you going to do? Well, they have to be converted into living quarters of some sort. They have to be multi-res.
Yeah. I mean, that's interesting because I was having that discussion recently with a friend where a lot of the big universities were almost, especially in the United States, were forcing students back because they couldn't bill the families for the housing. So they were losing large amounts of income because the students weren't on campus and they couldn't bill them for this on campus housing. So that's a big hit to them financially as well, because they're I'm sure the housing costs, the food costs, all the little things. I mean, I joked recently, we have the 7-Eleven convenience store chains here.
Yeah.
And I hadn't gone to normally in the morning would go to 7-Eleven on my way to work, come into the shop, I'd stop, get a cup of coffee, a banana or something. I hadn't been to 7-Eleven in 10 months.
Wow.
If you take my $6 or $7 that I spend multiply times 5, multiply that times 10 months, and how many other people just like me haven't done that?
Yeah.
That's a huge loss of revenue.
Do you do Instacart? Do you guys have Instacart over there?
I was introduced to Instacart last March when our local municipalities were telling us, don't go to the stores, don't come in contact with every person in the country bought every last roll of toilet paper and paper towels and all this craziness. I'm never gonna waste my time at a grocery store again because it just comes to your porch.
Yeah,
That's the best thing in the world.
Like the second we started doing, so my wife and I are doing Instacart.
Yep.
It's like to go to a physical store to spend time, get in your car, gas. Like,
Yep.
what are you doing?
Yep.
So all of these things are changing human behavior.
Yeah. And
right? And so that means those stores could actually function more from, like, someone could have a grocery store in an industrial area.
yeah,
They don't need to have the wax floors
Yeah.
and all they could just sell product directly to consumer.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They could be somewhere industrial.
They could close their retail locations and run the grocery store from their distribution centers, basically.
Yeah.
Right? They don't need the retail storefront.
Yeah. Even like for any shopping that I did for clothes, I like I like to wear wear nice blazers, and
Yeah.
I don't have time. You think I have time to go to a mall or shopping? So I have a guy that comes. This shirt he came right to my office.
Mhm.
Right, he came right to my office. Here's what it is. Here's the fits. Boom, they take it away and they bring it back.
Yeah.
The value of
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
All the things that you can do with your time. So, I mean, everything has changed, and everything impacts real estate.
hmm
Right? Everything impacts real estate. Everything, everything.
Because your tailor no longer needs a retail storefront
No.
for you to come and get fitted for a blazer or a shirt. He comes to you, gets your measurements, creates the pattern, either does it himself or sends it to whoever's doing it for him, and then he delivers it back to you. You don't need to go to his store to go shop.
Yeah.
He's bringing you swatches of different materials and fabrics, and you're like, I love that one, but I want this style cut, but I want to use this fabric and whatnot. So yeah, I can see a lot of that changing.
Yeah, and so that when you ask the question, how are you looking at real estate now versus 2019?
Yeah.
Those are all the things that are in my mind.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, okay, where are we going here? Okay, so we want to change bad money into good money, right? So some investments we're not doing so well. Well, this is the time to get out of some of those investments and then take the money and redeploy it into areas where we know are gonna be performing better than before. That money needs to,
Sure.
we need to level up, right?
Yeah.
And for us, we're very specific. We're going into secondary markets, tertiary markets, and this is why we kind of connected, because
Yeah.
I'm coming to the U.S. Like I'm coming, and I'm looking for these types of inventory.
Yeah. Yeah. And then most of the properties now you own and manage now are like apartment buildings, you were saying?
Yeah. Pretty much everything we do is apartment buildings, right?
Okay.
Even whether they're like two-story walk-ups, they're long, right? So you could have like a two-story walk-up that has 24 units, but they're long and a big parcel of land, or maybe like stacked buildings all together. Like maybe three-story walk-ups. Maybe there's a few of them stacked together, but that's the kind of inventory that I like. I'm very specific. I don't like elevators. I don't like parkades.
Okay. Yeah.
I invest for cash flow,
hmm
and that's my passion. And I would have stayed in Canada for a long time. They just know the inventory here. And by the way, like I wouldn't want to discourage anybody from investing into Canada. Is, you know, you just got to be patient. You got to be patient and know what you're doing.
Yeah.
But there is inventory here, but not as much as 300 million people's worth, right?
Right.
That's a lot of doors. That's a lot of doors.
It is. It is.
And I wouldn't be surprised if you're going to see more people come from Canada coming your way.
Yeah. Cool. So, did you guys? Obviously, the Canadian government handled this pandemic a lot different than the United States did.
Yeah.
Did you guys? I know I had read that the government gave much more assistance to the general population. Did you guys that affect anything? Like, were people?
You know what? I have to say that it's easy. It's easier for us to do that because again, we're only 30 million people.
Yeah.
Right? You have. I mean, you guys have 300 plus million people, so I get it. You know, I get that. You know, to try to dish out money to everybody equally, all, you know, ongoing for the past 2 years, it has been a challenge. I see that. You know, here it has been a challenge. You know, and there has been stimulus. There has been a lot of stimulus, but it's easier to control. You know, because it's like you're opening up a floodgates of like money, right? And you want to make it easy and accessible for people to get that money.
Yeah.
And so at one point, so we had the CERB program for a lot of our citizens, which I think it was $2,400 a month.
Okay.
When the program was live, now it's converted into something else. I don't know how much it is now, but it was about $2,400, and very accessible. Anybody, and you just go online, you put in your bank account, and boom, the money's in your account, right? So they put money into people's hands fast, right? I don't know how it worked in the US, but from what I heard was everybody got checks. The problem with checks is like, can we try? I don't even know. I'm just assuming. I heard, that's what I heard. Is it true?
So there's a yes and a no.
Okay.
So you have a certain sector of the population that are not technology savvy. Right? And I think it's probably more than I even realized. So that's where the physical checks were.
Okay, because I was seeing reports of people getting checks. I'm like, I don't trust the postal service. You know, like, you know, like I'm not gonna be waiting for my check to arrive. You know, that's so, you know, 2019.
Yeah. So what they did initially, and this was last April or May, so 2 months in the pandemic, is you could go to the Internal Revenue website, enter your information. They would pull your most recent tax return. So for me, it was 2018 because I hadn't done 19 yet. And as long as you made under a certain income, I think it was 80,000, you qualified for a one-time stimulus of $1,200.
One payment.
One payment. Then it took months with our government in Congress to then decide on the second stimulus that came out in December.
Another one-time payment.
Another one time of $600. Yeah. Now, when I'm saying these dollars, these are maximums, right? Wow. So the first one was $1,200. I got 400 and some change, right? And the second one, 600. And then they just 2 weeks ago did another one for 1,400. So there's only been 3 stimuluses going around.
One-time payments.
Yes.
Yeah. So I guess that's where it varies a little bit because this has been ongoing every single month.
Yeah.
And at the very beginning, like obviously the people need to qualify, but I think for our government, you know, it was more important to get the money into people's hands, and so whoever applied got the money.
Yeah.
Right. Like there's no red tape, because the last thing you want, like you have to pay your bills, and then you gotta like, okay, like, honey, where's all the paperwork? I don't know where you put it. You know, like that's the last thing you want. And so like everybody applied, and they got it, right. And then after they have to clean up the mess afterwards, right? So some people are saying, well, maybe you didn't qualify or whatnot, you should give it back or whatnot. And but again, a lot easily, it's a lot better to manage 30 million people versus 300 million. I mean,
yeah,
just by population alone, I understand why things were rolled out that way, and it's easier to, I guess, it's easier to say that, oh, you guys did better than us, or you know what I mean, like, because it's like when I look at Florida, I'm like, damn, I want I want to go to Florida, right?
yeah,
And it's just like, I think everybody, you definitely don't want to be a leader during these times. I mean, you had to make some really hard calls,
sure.
and you just do it. I think everybody's just doing their best. You know, I think nobody really truly means harm against anyone.
Yeah, I think in many rights there were a lot of unknowns.
Yeah.
In you can push it in whoever's direction. We had an administration here, a president and an administration that honestly did not take this virus as serious as it should have early on.
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
That's that's anyone who says different. That's just the truth. He did not take it serious up to the point he even contracted it himself. That's how not serious, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Not to get political, but then
Yeah.
in the U.S., they let the governors in each state rule out their own guidelines and regulations. But that only works if we can't leave the boundary of our state, right?
Yeah.
So I could potentially run down to Georgia this weekend where there's no mask mandate, contract the virus, come back to D.C. and infect 20 people, right?
Yeah.
So how do you? And I'm not pushing blame in one direction or the other. How do you control that? How do you contain that? You know,
Yeah,
that
you can't, and there's a lot of times like Toronto obviously has the biggest population,
mhm.
and this is where you have you have the most amount of cases happening in Toronto. But you have to shut down the whole province
Yeah,
because someone in Toronto, okay, I'm going to go up to Ottawa to have drinks or go for Valentine's Day, right? And you just have to shut everything down. There's places in northern Ontario
mhm.
that have never even seen one case, but they're all shut down, right? I mean, what are you going to do? Because that's where everybody's going to go,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So it's like I said, from a leader's perspective, you don't want that job. I mean, I'm sure the governor of California, I mean, he doesn't want that for that. I mean,
right.
some of the things I've seen, and I know that I know the news can be biased, of course, but
Sure.
the things, there is some truth to what's going on in California. I mean, it, it's not the same California it was, you know, back in 2019.
No, not at all. Not at all. Have you experienced, I guess, with your stimulus in Canada, a little different, with the amount of doors that you all manage, have you seen the same flight from the urban environments out to the country, out to the suburban areas? Have you seen that as well?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. That's exactly what's happening, right?
Okay.
People are leaving these like major cities, and they're going out to secondary markets.
Yeah.
It's changing real estate forever.
So are you looking at these secondary markets heavier now because of that?
Yeah, I mean, I was always, I mean, I gotta, like, cap rates kind of determine where I go, right? And
Yep.
once cap rates start to dip, that's probably my time to go invest somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so I was already into some of these secondary markets, but now I'm looking at tertiary markets,
Okay.
right?
Yep.
And these are, things that maybe before 2019 I might have not even looked at, but now they're becoming more exciting. And now I'm looking at, because of the only way to escape the trap of like competition, I
Mhm.
want to I want to be, buying 100, 200 units, 300 units at a time.
Mhm.
And the US is the only place that has that type of inventory for me.
Yeah. Yeah. What what's your ideal condition? Are you looking more at what that area has the potential to become, or has it already? Like, we define it here as you're either on this side of the railroad tracks or you're on that side of the track.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that may, I mean, definitely that's a factor in the U.S., right? I mean, you have some areas that are going to be completely depressed for a very long time.
Yeah.
I look at three things. The first, I need access. Like I need what is the access to a major market? Like I'm not investing in major markets, but I need to have direct access,
Mm-hmm.
right? So a highway, how like how far do I have to drive to have fun,
Mm-hmm.
basically, right? How far do I have to drive to go into that one time a month that I have to go into work, to go to that meeting? How far is that? Like
Mm-hmm.
how easy is that drive, right? So you have some of these secondary markets that are in Timbuktu, like these obscure places. Well,
Yeah.
I don't really want to invest there because there's no access, right?
Yeah.
Number two, whatever the town is has to have a reason to grow. Like, what's the reason for that area to grow? What's going to be the stimulus there? Is there like, is Amazon moving into to the area? Like, what's happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then lastly, for me, it's management, right? I need to have areas where it's easier for me to manage. Uh, I need to be able to move people there if I have to employ people in some of these areas. So
Yeah.
if I'm buying a 100 unit complex, then I need to make sure that I can have my team. I can hire the superintendent, the maintenance person. They need to be able to live on the grounds, and it needs to be easy for me to get people there. I've been successful in relocating people from one side of the country to the other, for management, live-in supers, live-in property managers, and things like that. So those are the things I look for, right?
Yeah.
And as long as I have a good team, I know that I could weather any storm, and we could take maybe a bit of a rougher property and make it into a better property.
Yeah. I know I used to joke with a couple buddies in investing in real estate, and I used to always call it the McDonald's effect, where McDonald's was not afraid early on. I don't know if you saw the documentary they put out.
Oh, love it, love it.
He was not afraid to go buy initially to buy the real estate,
Yeah,
right? But Ray Kroc then said, "Wait a minute, let me buy the land first,
and then leave it to the
lease, and then lease the." Yeah, I mean, it was just awesome. But my point being is, there's a reason why there's always a strip mall adjacent, across the street, or behind a McDonald's, because McDonald's came in a sense, created that infrastructure first.
yeah,
There's also a reason why there's always a Wendy's across the street, because Wendy's said McDonald's has already done all the research,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
They already found the major corridor, the area. They initially did that. That's how they branched out the way they did.
So let me ask you a question. Like,
Yeah.
so right now you're doing new builds.
Yeah, rehabs more, not
Okay, new rehabs. So you're taking old product.
yeah,
Uh, is it like row housing type of?
in different areas. A lot. So in the DC suburbs, they're mostly single family homes that sit on, a decent yard. They're usually not connected. They're not adjacent. Just north of me in the city of Baltimore, it's almost all brick row homes, inner city row homes. And then DC is a mix. So some neighborhoods in DC are row homes. Capitol Hill is a lot of row homes, brick row homes. Out around the outskirts, in northeast and northwest areas of Washington, D.C., you'll see a lot more single family homes that have, half an acre of property at most, probably.
And that's so right now you're just doing, like, you're just flipping these properties.
For the most part, yeah. So I have not done many rentals. I partnered with somebody on a rental and then just decided I didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
In the DC market, pre-COVID and even during COVID, the Airbnb market is humongous. I mean, people,
Oh, really?
yeah, humongous.
Yeah. Some of the Airbnb stuff, I know in some areas took a hit.
It did. So early on, it did. But
Yeah.
then imagine all these people were cramped in and cooped up at home.
Had to get moving.
Well, they had to do something. So what they would do is they would do an Airbnb for a weekend or maybe a week down at the ocean. And they'd go down to the shore. Um, so a lot of those guys early on, and then towards the end of the summer, the few that I've talked to, it did slow down, and then right into the Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays, it took off like a rocket again.
Wow.
And right now, I was actually speaking to my brother this past weekend. They just now had to book a 2-week beach rental. They can't get anything down in North Carolina on the Outer Banks. Nothing was available until August. It's booked solid.
Wow.
So you see where people's mindset is.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. So we're going to be going through this for quite a while, and they're planning these weekend excursions or week-long vacations. So
yeah, the one thing about the flip, because I did a lot of flipping in my 20s.
I'm out of it now. I don't like it. It's too much.
I was flipping out.
Yep.
You know, but the thing is, it's like, you know, once it takes, you know, it does take a skill set to find the property in the first place.
Yep.
And then you do all that work, and then you got to sell it, right? So,
Yep.
I definitely like the, you know, buy and hold, buy and hold for forever. But I like the economy as a scale model where you have more units contained on one property, and you know you have more income to help you pay down the same expenses,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And you start, you know, the higher you go in units, the lower the cost per unit. And for some reason that makes sense to me, right?
Yeah.
Like I just became a multi-res guy, you know, and you know, I love it. I mean, I definitely would probably say to you that you should add that component to your portfolio.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, people in the U.S. and Canada, I think they're going to move into like renter nations, right? More people are going to be renting, and you know, that model of multi-res, I think it's definitely something you should look at.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. Yeah, I have a couple buddies. The whole purpose of the percentage of their flipping business is to take the profits from those flips to buy more long-term holds. That's their whole purpose. Yep.
Yeah, and like it makes sense, right? That's what I mean. That's where the true wealth is in real estate, right? You definitely have this awesome platform, right? And like, I mean, that's awesome. I'm glad I got to meet you.
Yeah, man. Likewise, likewise. So, when do you think Canada is going to allow me to cross the border?
Yeah, I need to go down by you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean,
you know, I lived in Miami.
Okay.
Back in 2001, 2002, 2003.
Right.
And yeah, man, I miss it. I mean, I was on tour in the U.S. for, you know, many times. You know, I've been doing training, real estate training, and you know, all across the U.S. and Canada.
Okay.
And I miss it. I miss going down there. I love it. You know, you know, especially my daughters. I bring them to Disney World.
Oh yeah.
We didn't get to go. We're probably not going to get to go this summer.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I
know
don't know.
It's open, but we can't go. You can go.
I could go. Yeah, I could go.
Yeah. So you know, it's tough to say. I think, and in Canada specifically, I, you know, because what's happening is the vaccines are rolling out to the vulnerable sector first.
Same here. Yep.
Yeah, and so I think that's probably not the best move, because when you think about it, someone like me, like, you want me to wear a mask, I wear a mask. You want me to you know, physically be distant with someone, I can do it. I can, you know, keep it down to 5 people in my household. I can follow all the rules.
Yeah.
Because in the back of my mind, I definitely don't want someone to be hurt because I've done something, or I was careless, and then a loved one or someone that I know their loved one has, got COVID
Right.
and dies because of something I did, right?
Yeah, sure.
And I'm sure a lot of the young people, I mean, it's hard to keep young people, kind of like, indoors, right? But I would say that some of them, that guilt of, if you do something, it could affect someone else.
Yeah.
But what's going to happen when you no longer have that guilt, where the vulnerable sector has been vaccinated? How do you keep all the horses in the barn?
Right.
And I think we're going to have a big surge where people are not going to care anymore. That's just a personal opinion.
Yeah.
And because grandpa, grandma are vaccinated, and everybody's vaccinated, so you know what, nothing to worry about anymore.
Yeah.
And I think the governments are going to have another issue on their hands. And so I think the best rollout would have been, let's get the non-vulnerable people vaccinated,
Mhm.
so that you can still contain them in the barn, keep those people in the barn,
Right.
then vaccinate the older people and vulnerable people. I don't know.
I don't.
I'm not the one that's making that decision, anyways.
Yeah, no, me neither. And I mean, it's a joke, and this is not a laughing topic. It's a serious, pandemic. But a friend of mine said, "Why are we rewarding all the people that have these medical conditions? Why don't we vaccinate the healthy people first, so they can help these vulnerable people?"
Yeah. Well, it's a scenario when you're on the plane, right? The plane says when they deploy the the airbag,
Yeah.
put it on you, put it on yourself first.
Right. So
and then help the other person.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm coming from the perspective of, like, how are you going to keep these people now indoors, knowing that there is no consequence?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. Anyways, I'm not making those decisions, my man.
That's above both your and my pay grade.
That's it. That's it.
Like public office, I don't need to make those decisions, right? But yeah, I appreciate it. But I mean, really good perspective with you on COVID and kind of how it affected all of us and will continue to affect us, because we, quite frankly, all of us don't know what's next.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the one thing to keep into perspective. No one has a crystal ball.
Yeah.
It's all speculation.
Yeah.
What I'm saying, what you're saying, what anybody's saying, it's just all speculation. We can make projection. And what's a projection? Well, we can take past experiences mixed in with present experiences. We can now project what the future may look like, right?
Yeah.
And nobody has a crystal ball, right? And you just have to, right now, all I can tell anybody, and your viewers included,
yeah,
just walk cautiously, but walk. Like, don't freeze, like, continue to buy real estate.
Yeah.
But be smart about it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, man. I really appreciate it. Guys, Alfonso, once again, up in Canada, going over with all of us this afternoon on
coming your way. Coming your way.
You guys better start buying real estate in the U.S. because he's coming, right? All right, man. Talk to you soon.
Yes, sir. We'll see you. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to comment down below, subscribe, hit the bell to be notified the next time we're doing a video. And guess what? Like, share, dislike, I don't care! Let me see how that looks.